know, Vince, they're really cracking down on safety belts these days.
What's up, officer?
I'm giving you a ticket for committing an 811.
Safety belt violation.
Compliments of Barney Fife.
We never wear safety belts. We're dummies.
Weisenheimers.
He gave us a ticket.
Man's got to do what he's got to do.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. My special guest today, Patty Ciripompa, the Supervisor for Adult Protective Services at Job and Family Services. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
I am glad you're here.
Thank you, Mike.
We have worked together for, well, I've been there 13 years, and you have a very distinguished background.
Well, I've been at Job and Family Services for 13 years, Director of Adult Protective Services for 13 years. But prior to that, I was at Juvenile Court. I was the court director for Juvenile Court under Judge Jackson and then Judge Williams. And prior to that, I was a counselor at New Horizons. I'm really dating myself here. I started working for the county when I was 12, and I've worked there 30 years now.
Wow.
Celebrated my 30th anniversary.
That's
Saturday.
Oh, this Saturday.
Yes.
And you started out working with juveniles?
Oh, yes. I've always done counseling or working with juveniles and families. And it seems like, Mike, as I've gotten older, my population, my customers have become older. So now I'm working with folks 60 and older.
Now, do you see some of the kids years ago? Do you have seen them around town?
Yeah. I still run into, some of the kids are no longer kids, Mike. Some of the kids, I hate to say, and this is really going to age me, are now grandparents. So, yeah, I still see some of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's neat, though.
It's been a fun ride.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
It has.
And, it's a full cycle of life now.
And I'm still going. I'm not ready to quit yet. I'm not throwing in the towel. I have too much to do with adult protective services.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's my calling.
And there's a lot we're going to talk about today, but also you have kind of a sideline. You're going to be a ghostwriter.
Yes, I am. I'm going to ghostwrite.
Now, what brought that up? What was that?
I love to write, and I've always written, and I've written a lot for other people. If I can interview them and talk with them and learn their voice, I can write whatever they need written. And I've done a lot of that. I was the editor for our JFS newsletter for years and years. I have written articles. I've written I've done creative writing. I've written grants. I write a lot.
Oh, I know you let her write grants.
Yeah, we can do grants.
And I understand you're going to help one of the staff members here, one of the crew members, with his Christmas party.
I know. I'm not volunteering for that. He is his own talent. So very talented young man. So can't wait to see what he produces.
Well, that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about protective services. I know that a lot of people don't know a lot about it, and there's so many aspects to what you do. Just take us through what you've been involved with for a number of years.
Adult Protective Services, Mike, was formed back in the late 70s, 80, in Ohio and actually nationwide. And it was a companion to Child Protective Services. It was primarily to help vulnerable older adults, elderly, who were victims or at risk for abuse, all kinds of abuse. That includes emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect by others, and neglect by their caregivers or the people charged with taking care of them in their older age, or exploitation, financial exploitation, meaning somebody is misusing or misusing funds of the older adult,
Is that common?
Stealing.
Is it common?
Oh, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up. When I first started in Adult Protective Services 13 years ago, primarily, most of our cases, I would say about 70 to 80% of our referrals, we get referrals from all over the community. You name it, we've gotten a referral from everybody, any walk of life, any person in any walk of life. we've gotten referrals from. And our referrals primarily back in 2000 were referrals about neighbors or somebody they knew who wasn't taking care of themselves anymore, who wasn't able to. We call that self-neglect. A good example is the case, and a sad example, is the case of the couple in the Plains just recently in Athens County, the 88-year-old woman and her 73-year-old brother, who were found in a garage-like structure, and they had been living there since their house burned down. The neighbors knew they were pretty private people. They had not checked in on them. They didn't know to check in on them, and the people were living in trash and filth piled knee-high. When the sheriff got a call saying, check on them, anonymous call, the deputy went to the door, and kudos to this deputy, went to the door, and the elderly man had to crawl through filth, wasn't wearing any clothes, and his 88-year-old sister was in her recliner where a kerosene heater had been knocked over, caught the recliner on fire, burned her leg to the point where the skin was attached to the chair, and she had been sitting like that for 2 months. They're both being taken care of now. They're both hospitalized, and Adult Protective Services in Athens County is helping to find them an alternative living situation and safety. But no one had really checked in on them. No one had called Adult Protective Services about them. Those cases are what's called self-neglect, and we have a lot of those. Those are still the majority of our cases. But back to what I was saying about the financial exploitation, the face of protective services has changed because our times have changed, and this is really sad. But back in 2000, most of our cases were self-neglect, like the one I just described to you, although not as heinous, thank goodness. Now, a lot, I would say that 30% of our cases, at least, are financial exploitation. And the financial exploitation cases are directly related to the rise in addiction, substance abuse addiction, and the economy.
By elderly people or
by
by
the perpetrators.
Okay.
What's happening, what we see, Mike, are adult children moving back in with mom and dad, or moving in with grandma and grandpa, or actually using what we call undue influence. They don't have, the adult children or grandchildren don't have jobs, perhaps. They may be addicted to substances. Opiate addiction is a big one, heroin addiction, etc. And they go to grandma and say, Grandma, I need to borrow $500 so I can get my car fixed, because I can't find a job without a car. And of course, grandma says, okay, even though she might be making $700 a month on Social Security. She gives the granddaughter $500 to fix her car. Granddaughter comes back a week later. You know, that mechanic just ripped me off, Grandma. He didn't fix it. I don't know what happened. I need another $250 because a friend's going to fix it. And then the money is spent on drugs. We have adult children living with their parents now because they have no jobs or because they are drug addicted or alcoholic. It's very sad. We have found that 78% of our cases of physical abuse or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect by other are the perpetrator is family member. These are done by family members.
Do you see that people see this and are afraid to report it, or they just, oh, I know Johnny and Joni and I'm not going to say anything? Is that the case?
What happens, it is very rare, and I'm underlining very rare, that the victim reports to us or law enforcement that their grandchild or their adult child has stolen from them or used undue influence to get money. They don't usually report to us because they don't want their child or their grandchild to get in trouble. They often will not cooperate with filing charges. They often will not cooperate with prosecution. These are the victims. The elderly victims sometimes tell us to get out. You know, my daughter has had a rough life. She has children of her own. I had to give her the money. What was I going to do? Go away, P.S. So it's very frustrating, but that has risen exponentially. The cases are changing.
From that time that you do get a report, do you stay with that until?
We do.
I mean,
we do.
There's no,
we
within
stay
a year,
with
or you stay as long as?
With the time, it depends. The time varies. When we get a referral, we either screen it in or screen it out. And by screen it in or screen it out, I mean if it's a definite allegation of abuse, neglect, self-neglect, or financial exploitation, automatically we go and investigate. We start an investigation.
Which your department does, because you have some other people that work with
We
you.
have 3 of us. There are 3 of us.
Yeah.
There are 3 of us. And we will go out and investigate. Sometimes folks call us and say, my elderly mother lives by herself, and I check on her every day, but she really could, I hate to see her cook anymore. Is there somehow we could get, home delivered meals or something? And we'll say, yes, we're gonna, give you the number for Meals on Wheels. We're gonna give you the number for caregiver services through Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging. So we actually can help people access services. Those aren't really ongoing cases. We don't investigate those. We just help. So those are some of our referrals.
What is there a number people can call? We can get up on the.
Let me give you the number. It is 740-653-4060, 653-4060, and you can reach Protective Services and ask for adult protective.
Is there a website?
There is fcjfs.org, and just scroll down where it says Adult Protective Services. You can even fill out a referral form there, email it to us, or you can fax something to us, you can call us, you can come in at 239 West Main Street, Job and Family. We're on the 3rd floor. So we accept referrals in any way you can get them to us. And with regard to, we investigate a case, Mike, and after we investigate, if it's validated, that means if it looks like this is happening and this person has been victimized in some way, sometimes we'll involve law enforcement. If it's a financial exploitation case, we try to involve law enforcement right away. If it's a self-neglect case, we stay involved until we can get the person either to safety or help them access services so they can stay in their home. That's our goal, keep the person at home.
How much does mental illness play into?
I would say that about 25 to 30% of all our cases have mental illness as a component.
Wow.
And sometimes it's undiagnosed mental illness for the older adult, because if somebody is 80, suffering from a mental illness that has been lifelong, a lot of people may think, well, Aunt Sally's just eccentric, or she's always been this way. It hasn't been treated, it hasn't been diagnosed. Sometimes the perpetrators are mentally ill. Schizophrenic son, or bipolar granddaughter. These folks are, very involved with the elderly adult who has essentially kind of taken care of them most of their lives.
I know with all the cases that you do, there's actually been coordinated effort, the Fairfield County Elder Abuse Interdisciplinary Team.
So proud of that
Talk a little
team.
bit about that team.
That's wonderful. We have representatives on that team from Lancaster Police Department. Pickerington will be joining us. Fairfield County Sheriff's Department. They're very big on our team. Prosecutors, county and city. We have Lancaster City Code Enforcement. We have hospital, discharge planners and social workers. We have a member of Passport, which is the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, home health provider for Medicaid customers who are eligible for it. We have the Lancaster Fire Department represented, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities. We have the Lighthouse, Fairfield Area Humane Society. We have a really active elder abuse interdisciplinary team. I can give you one example of an offshoot that came from this team. Detective Brian Underwood from Lancaster Police Department, he hosts a show on this channel called Senior Focus, and I encourage everybody to watch that show. He gives tips about scams that are going around right now. He gives current advice on how people can avoid becoming a victim if you're an older adult, how you can avoid becoming a victim in your home or at the grocery store, in a parking lot, or a victim of perpetrators who come around and say, hey, I can fix your gutter, I can fix your driveway. Guy was just arrested. There was an article in today's paper. Guy was just arrested in Buckeye. You know, that's thanks to our sheriff's department and the good work that they do.
I know everybody gets behind this, but any tips that you could tell somebody that's watching now, that if somebody does knock on their door and say, hey, your driveway's cracked, it's going to cost you $100, but when I'm done, you're going to have to pay me $10,000. I mean, what should they do? What should people?
First of all, if you're elderly and you live by yourself, don't open the door. Don't open the door till you know who it is on the other side. And if you're not sure who it is, ask to see identification. Nobody is going to come to your door and say, I was in the neighborhood, I can fix your gutter, I can fix your driveway. If you need your gutter or your driveway fixed, you call folks and say, who could I call, a legitimate business, to do this? Don't answer the door. Or call a neighbor, say, hey, somebody's at my door. Don't let anyone in your house. I don't care if they say they have to use the bathroom, they have to use the phone. Don't do it. Don't let them.
In that case, 911, or is that just?
That's fine. I think, okay, I'm not the 911 operator, so perhaps I'm jumping the gun by saying call 911. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to call 911.
When you guys get together and talk about what's happening in Fairfield County, and I know it extends to other counties, are you hearing the same thing from other counties about the same problems? I mean, the same dealing with
We do, I think, and in some counties you have to remember, we are very blessed in Fairfield County. Thank you to all the voters out there who said yes to the Protective Services levy, because otherwise I wouldn't even be able to be here, because I'd be the only one working in APS, and we get 600 referrals a year. Average of 50 a month.
50 a month. That's
50
a
a
lot.
month. That's a lot. And there are 3 of us. Thank goodness, because of the levy. In other counties in Ohio, like maybe Noble County or Morgan County, some of the tinier counties without funding, they may have one adult protective services worker who also has a child protective services caseload. And so people don't even know to call.
Wow. That's now. You mentioned your team, and I know there's 2 others that you work with.
Yes, Janet Stout and Colleen Brown. They're wonderful. I have to give them kudos. They're very seasoned. They've been there almost as long as I have. So we work great as a team. We work very well with our partners in the community who also work with older adults.
Now, do you get the opportunity to go to other counties and talk to people, or to seminars?
We go to some seminars when we can. They really taking all 3 of us away from the office is not a good idea, but we have been able to go to some. We are in communication with some of the other counties. We have a working agreement with Franklin County, for example. If you were abusing an older adult right now, Mike, and because I work with you and know you, and somebody called and said Mike is, taking advantage of his elderly neighbor, I would refer that investigation to Franklin County, because there would be a conflict of interest, and vice versa. So we have a working agreement with them. We are familiar with Hocking County, Perry County, contiguous counties. We talk with them occasionally, not as often as we'd like.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Now, I know that different families do different things. Talk to your parents every day, your grandparents. What should, maybe some guidelines for if somebody suspects something that they should do?
First of all, if you suspect that something's going on with an elderly neighbor or an elderly relative, call us. Call us.
Should they go to the house and knock on the door and say, is everything
Most
okay?
definitely,
Okay.
most definitely. One of the things that we preach is pay attention, be aware. Especially in the winter months, make sure that your elderly neighbors who are shut in have food, running water, electricity, heat. That's very, very important. We just got a referral today about, it ended up, I'm not sure that it is an elderly person, but this person has no heat and possibly no food. There are people in our county right now, Mike, without food and without heat. And that appalls me. That there's no excuse for that in this day and age where our own folks have no food, no heat. And so be aware of your neighbors. Call us, call somebody. Call 211, which is our information and referral.
Right.
If it involves an elderly person, call Adult Protective Services. If it involves little children, call Child Protective. So same number, 653-4060, by the way. So definitely get involved. And if your parents are elderly, of course I'm Italian, maybe that has something to do with it. We're real enmeshed, we don't stay out of each other's lives or business. We make our family business our own. Call your parents, call your grandparents, go see them. Make sure they have tape on their throw rugs so that they're not loose. Make sure they have proper lighting. Make sure they have access to a phone in every room. Little things like that.
Is this something that has been maybe in the high schools, to talk to the high school kids and say,
We
hey,
have been.
check on grandma and grandpa?
We have gone into the high schools. I don't know if there are courses anymore. I really can't answer that. I hope so. And high schools are welcome to call us. We love to do presentations.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We love to let people know how to take care of our elderly.
I know we talked a little bit about just watching out for certain things, but if you're going through the grocery store and you see somebody that you think, well, there's just something wrong there, something's not right. I mean, is it okay to go up and say, are you okay? Are you all right? I mean, or is that...
As I said, I'm Italian. I always do that. But yeah, sometimes I think I'm recruiting customers, but yeah, it's okay to do that. Sir, could I help you? Do you need help with something? Or, not to be offensive. There is one thing I have to say, in Child Protective Services, children, we are responsible for taking care of. I think we're morally responsible for taking care of elders, but as soon as you reach the age of 18, you're your own person. You can make your own decisions. We had one case where a lady lived in a hoarded house. She hoarded everything. You've seen the show Hoarders. I personally cannot watch it. All right, I don't do that. Don't watch Hoarders at all. Have to stay away from it. And she was sitting in this little space amidst all of her hoarding, and there was a little path to get to her. And she was competent. She was competent. She knew who the president was. She knew herself. She knew phone numbers. She knew dates. She knew current events. Very competent. And she told us to get out. This was her lifestyle, and she wasn't going to get rid of anything. She wasn't going to change anything. So we said, well, we're going to leave you our card. Can we come back and visit? And we visited periodically. And at one point, she had some health issues, and that's how we got involved with her.
Right.
So we got some family involved also. That helped. But she had the right to collect and hoard and tell us to leave. And we had to honor that. You can't force yourself on adults. You cannot. So you'll get arrested.
I know we've talked about people that, well, I can't get there. I don't drive anymore. But there's transit systems?
Lancaster Public Transit has a mobility passport program where you can call them and say, I'm over 60 and I really can't afford your transportation. Then you can fill out this application, or they'll bring you one. It's $1 to ride anywhere.
Wow, that's it?
Yeah, that's it. Lancaster Public Transit.
That's pretty good.
The Fun Bus has bus service now. So there's a lot of transportation in our community right now. Thank goodness. It's about time.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful thing.
We're talking with Patty Ciripompa, who is the supervisor of Adult Protective Services for Job and Family Services. If background in juvenile court,
Yeah.
if Patty were not doing this, what would Patty be doing?
You know what? I'd be doing this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would be doing this. My passion is, my parents were older. My parents were much older. I was kind of not a mistake, a happy accident. And so I came along in life when they were much older, and I grew up with older parents. And as I said, I'm Italian, and so the love I have for my parents and what they taught me, they inspired me to care about older adults. And I would be doing this. This is something I have a passion for.
We've just got a few minutes left, but have you ever been in a situation where you've been somewhere where an adult, a senior citizen, has been abused, neglected, and you think, I got to count to 10 or I'm going to smack this guy? I mean,
The perpetrator?
Yeah, have you ever?
I'm uncomfortable answering that because the sheriff, I think, is nearby. And
He's very close.
I don't want to. I don't have a weapon. They won't let me have one. Let me just say that Sheriff Phelan said no when I tried to get a gun permit. He said no because I know what you'll do to the perpetrators. He didn't really say that. I'm kidding, but he should have.
Yeah.
I've gotten very frustrated with
I can see
perpetrators.
that.
Very, very frustrated.
Yeah.
Very angry, and it's very sad. Very sad to see an older adult who has been victimized, and it's intolerable.
It's just, it's amazing. I'm not, from your perspective, since you've done this, how do you think people in Fairfield County understand it? I mean, do
I think not
60% of the people, 40%?
I don't know how many percent, but everybody needs to know we exist. And everybody needs to know that elderly people are out there. Not all elderly people are victims or vulnerable, but, aging makes us more vulnerable.
Absolutely.
It does.
I know.
I know that now, too. So I think that you have to pay attention to your neighbors as they age, and your friends and your relatives. And I wish everybody in our county knew about Adult Protective Services. They need to.
One more time, phone number, website they can go to get some information?
740-653-4060. Our website is fcjfs.org. And you can just go there and click on Adult Protective Services. Call us.
Sure.
If you have any questions, call us. If you want more information, call us. If you have concerns, call us.
And you're also on the 3rd floor of the JFS building?
We are.
If you want to stop in, you can go up. And
You can come in. Yeah.
Patty, we appreciate you coming in today.
Mike,
We
thanks
really
so
do.
much for having me here.
Absolutely. Thanks for
All
being
right.
here.
It's good being here.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.